Welcome, everyone. My name is Kim Lynch. I use pronouns she, her, hers, and currently serve as the Senior System Director for Educational Innovations, a unit of our Minnesota State System Office. I have the joy of working with my two colleagues, Stephen and Tim, who will introduce themselves more fully as they arrive at the slides they'll share. As we get started, if you would be willing to include in chat your name, college, university, or system, and your interest in Z degrees particularly. And of course, any questions as we run through this fast-paced session, please feel free to just pop them into chat. One of us will at all times monitor that to surface or respond to questions. So please use it as fully as you wish. So with that, I'd like to just start with a little background to put our work in context. Minnesota State is the third largest system of state colleges and universities in the United States, with 30 colleges, 7 universities, and 54 campuses across a diverse geography with technical, community, comprehensive colleges, small and large universities. We serve 340,000 plus students each year, with more students of color and American Indian students attending our colleges and universities than all other higher ed providers in Minnesota combined. In the left graphic, you can see our reach across the state with a cluster in the metro area, but that just shows sort of our expansion. And then I'm going to have you look at the right graphic as well. In spring 2019, the state of Minnesota's 91st legislature passed Senate File 2415. This bill included a directive for the Minnesota State colleges and university system stating that 3 additional colleges must offer the opportunity to earn a zero textbook cost degree, or Z degree, by the academic year 2020-2021. Yep, by this past fall, when, as it turns out, nothing much at all has been going on. We'd actually had one college, Central Lakes, that had unified to achieve the goal of a Z degree prior to this legislation. So I guess they assumed that if one could do it, 3 more could easily, just like that. So it's now fall 2020. And Minnesota State is in fact offering 5 new zero cost textbook degrees, or Z degrees, at 5 different colleges developed in just 12 months, in addition to Central Lakes, which was the leader. And then there's another yet to be offered this spring that's just coming on board. So a 6th new and a 7th total. We're here really to share what we think helped us exceed our goal, even amid a pandemic, but also some of the struggles to get there, the shared victories, and the commitment that's needed to do the seemingly impossible. I will just add on that graphic, we call the green the large Z degree grants, which were really those that led to implementation, and there are multi-campuses. So if you see more than I mentioned, it's because it has more than one campus. But in addition, we also had so much interest that we provided small grants for those who really said they were ready, but they weren't quite ready. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So if you could go to the next slide, Tim. While our accelerated approach to increasing Z degrees, I think, is impressive, it would be misleading to share it without recognizing that we have been building awareness, building skills and abilities, both across the system and at local campuses for 6 to 7 years. We have essentially been building a foundation, building some readiness to accelerate quickly. It's one thing to offer, again, opportunities, but still another to know the impact of those efforts on campus readiness to actually get to a Z degree. And so in just 1 minute, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to really share how we knew where to focus and who actually was ready to move. But the list on the left are really the things that are foundations. The small, hard to read piece is really just a screenshot of the flyer that really is a comprehensive view of all of those things and some of the details. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to talk about how we knew who was ready and how we went from there.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Kelly, and I am the Open Education Innovation Program Coordinator at the Minnesota State System Office. I work in the same unit as Kim and Tim, who are on our call here with us today. And when we were thinking about the Z degree and how we were going to launch it on at least 3 campuses in just 12 months, we figured we need to find a way where we could gauge just how ready our different campuses were to take on this real gargantuan task. Because again, when you get a legislative mandate like we did, it's a legislative mandate. This work must get done. And what that means is that you don't just want to go with the aspirational. You want to go with people who really want to aspire, but they also have some tools in place that position them well to accomplish a very very aggressive timeline like we had in the Z degree. So we narrowed it down to 4 different categories based on the work that we had done for 6 or 7 years in the system. And we wanted to look at what kind of campus personnel did the campus have in place? What did their institutional structure look like, such that they had different structures already constructed that could help support Z degree creation? We looked at the culture of the campus, and we also wanted to look at an open inventory and find out what kind of work maybe they had already done that would give us a suggestion as to just how much experience collectively as a campus they had in the area of open. And Tim, if you could forward to the next slide for me, please. What this looked like in practice is we built it into our application process. So when we announced the Z degree funding opportunity, we put that out system-wide. So what campuses could do is they could go to the place where we made the announcement, they could download the application, and within that application, they would see in part what you're looking at on the screen right now, which is a chunk of our readiness assessment, specifically things that looked at structural readiness. So again, what kind of structures are in place to support a Z degree? Do you have an OER committee? Is your library staff already deeply involved? What is your bookstore doing about OER on campus? How involved are they? These were all different kinds of things we want to know more about. And we didn't just do a checkbox yes or no, we did, but we also provided opportunities needs section for campuses to sort of elaborate on the different answers they were given. Because even if your campus bookstore is involved, checking a box doesn't tell you in what way, shape, or form they are. If you could go to the next slide, Tim. Here we'll take a quick look at the cultural section of our readiness assessment. So here again, looking at culture, what kinds of things have occurred on campus that would suggest that this is kind of in the consciousness, right? That students are thinking about it, faculty are thinking about it, administration's thinking about it. And so we ask questions like, what kind of campus-wide conversations have you had? Do you have trainings or workshops going on right now, right? Just where is open appearing on your campus? And through this process of asking campuses to share this information with us, it better informed us in how we should apply these legislative funds and start moving towards those Z degrees across the state. I'm going to pass it off now to my colleague, Tim Anderson, who's going to jump into the next slide for us.
Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm Tim Anderson. My title is Assistant Director for Student Success Technologies, and OER is one of the things that falls into my plate, which I'm excited to have supporting. To get through the legislative mandate, we had to provide a lot of support for our campuses. One is supporting the work. The legislators did give us funds to be able to support those campuses. And so we're looking at fund disbursement. We also provided facilitator support. And then there's this thing called search and display. For managing the funds, again, we had 6 colleges who did sign up to participate in the Z degree. 5 did complete on time, with the 6 completing in the spring. Pretty good success rate of 83%, considering we only had 1 year. And the only reason the 1 didn't complete was because of a turnover in administration. So very, very acceptable. And we're very excited to report that all of them will reach it by spring. Most of the colleges did use the funds for stipends and marketing campaigns. Note that the institutions selected to implement the Z degree, many of them were well underway with OER on their campuses. So we wanted to be able to understand through Stephen's process exactly where they were in the process. The goal for supporting campuses was to ensure that they completed the remaining courses required for the full Z degree. So basically to get them the rest of the way there. We also provided at Minnesota State in-kind contributions to meet a multi-year payout. So the legislators did give us funds, but they paid out over 2 years, even with a mandate that we complete it within 1 year, if that makes sense. So we were able to kind of step in and kind of help out the campuses so they could get the full funding up front so they could pay those faculty to convert their courses. The system office progress facilitators, we provided 2. We did offer all the campuses the ability to work with progress facilitators. And the goal of those facilitators will work with each of the campuses while still allowing autonomy of those campuses to progress in the Z degree development. So these folks checked in with faculty directly, making sure they had the resources available, making sure they knew of resources that they may not have been aware of, and to kind of really coach those faculty members in developing courses. So 2 of the colleges took advantage of that, and we're excited that they also completed on time. The facilitators, we wanted to make sure they were actually experts in the creation and adaptation of OER. They both had gone through the Creative Commons certification program and also through our learning circles, which is sponsored by the system office, our unit. and making sure that we walk through faculty on creating and adapting materials in a peer environment. So those folks did go through that. So they did have that same skill set to be able to push other faculty forward. The final thing on this slide is the search and display. It's one thing to have courses that are created with no cost textbooks, is another for students to be able to find those courses. So we implemented a solution that was piggybacking on several other systems and what they've done, and that is to allow students to search for courses that offer zero cost textbooks while they're registering for courses. We did pilot that project with the 6 institutions that were completing the Z degree. We're assessing the pilot and we'll eventually roll out that to the other Z degree, future Z degree applicants going forward. Managing and meeting the challenge. There were several things that we had to tackle to make sure those campuses are successful. One is the community, the other is providing the support, and one is also tracking the progress. We rolled, for the building the community, we rolled out a Z degree into our OER community. We have a robust community that's well over 200 faculty and staff that are participating in that, and it's a good source for collaborating and sharing information. So we make sure that that community is also aware of the efforts that are going on with Z degree, and we communicate the successes of the project broadly. Supporting the effort. We have a centralized project manager that was kind of playing that role through this, kind of working directly with the leadership of each campus to make sure they were accountable to the funds they received. Also, each site had a working team site. This allowed them to be able to track their progress, communicate campus-specific information, and so on. We also wanted to communicate with our bargaining units. As we have academic freedom, we wanted to make sure that faculty who were involved in creating these materials had an accurate understanding of what this meant with their courses in the development and adaptation of materials and who owned those materials and so on. We also noticed that most campuses already had a culture of OER at some level, which made it relatively easy to move into a full Z or zero textbook cost course. But others really needed a little more strategic approach when working with faculty. There's a couple departments that need a little more, and that's where the progress facilitators worked directly with the campuses. And also we wanted to make sure we had a consistent definition of what zero textbook cost meant. So we had a clear glossary that we navigated all faculty to understand if they truly were meeting the conditions of a Z degree. Finally, we created a tracking progress. Each campus was providing a common tracking sheet that measured their progress. They also produced monthly reports, which assessed where they were in the process, whether they were on track, whether they were behind, and so on. So we could adjust accordingly. These tracking sheets allowed the campuses to track down to the faculty member to understand whether they're creating, adapting, or adopting, so that way they could respond back to those faculty and give resources accordingly. So bottom line, Z degrees required significant, if not disruptive change. With the change comes uncertainty, but working directly with the campuses and leadership and providing the resources, both in personnel and financial, really positioned a campus for Z degree success, which we truly realized at the end of the 1 year where 5 of the 6 met the program requirements.
All right, and I'll take the handoff on the next slide. So as we proceed through our Z degree developments, we're moving into now a second year of Z degree. So we've talked a lot today about the first year, which was the initial campuses that moved forward with the Z degree. And they completed 5 degrees, as Kim indicated, but now we're moving into year 2. So we're going to work with some more funding to help develop more Z degrees across the system. And what we acknowledged was that depending where a campus was in terms of its readiness, it had different financial needs that really corresponded to the kind of work that needed to be done. So instead of providing a single kind of Z degree funding this year, we are going to go forward with 3 different kinds of Z degree funding. And we broke that down into exploration, implementation, and expansion. And there's more to these 3 categories than what I've put up here in the slide, but it kind of gives you a sense of what we would expect a campus to do with the amount of funding given the category that they've chosen to pursue. So for exploration, it's for those campuses that are kind of just at the beginning of Z degree, but they're not ready to jump full feet first into the puddle. Implementation is very much like the first year of Z degrees that we did. These are campuses that we are saying, take this money, do great work, and get prepared to roll this out on your campus the next academic year. And then our expansion grants are actually grants for existing Z degrees, because what we noticed when we developed our Z degrees is a lot of times campuses only had capacity to build out the minimum number of courses that would fill out the whole entire 60 credit degree, for instance. Well, that doesn't always give the most options to students now, does it? Because they have to take those exact classes in order to get the no-cost textbook courses. And so the expansion grant provides money for those Z degree campuses to create more options for students within the Z degree itself. Tim, can you forward to the next slide, please? And the last thing I want to share with you is just some of the ways that we're promoting this work across the system. We're currently in the process of creating a video which really focuses on our first round of Z degrees. That video will be shared online, but it's going to be kind of a documentary type recording where it goes on for about 5 or 7 minutes and walks everyone through the work that we've done across the system in Z degrees. And it features interviews with both faculty and students who have been involved in the process. We also promote our Z degrees across our ASA newsletter, which is found at asanewsletter.org. That's the primary place where we put out new information about the work that we're doing, both within the system and for without the system as well. We also work through media, primarily locally at this point, but just recently there was an article in our Minneapolis Star Tribune that focused on the Z degrees that are being rolled out across the state at this time. And of course, we promote these at conferences like the Open Ed conference today. The last thing is we encourage all of our campuses individually to put together promotion plans. So we do our work up at the high level in the system, and then the campuses themselves do the work promotionally on the local level, both on campus and in the surrounding community. So there's a little image in the bottom of this slide that you can see, which is an example of the website that Northland Community and Technical College in northern Minnesota built to promote their own Z degree up in their northwest region of the state. And you can forward to the next slide, Tim. And I think I can just wrap up one thing here, and you can hop in if you want, Kim, as well. But we just want to thank everyone for coming today and listening about the Z degree. If you have questions, put those in the chat. We want to answer them for you. And Kim, are there any parting thoughts you'd like to leave everyone with as well?
No, I've been frantically trying to keep up in the chat because there's a lot of good conversation going on there. So I will continue to do that. And I think we can open up the mic, I think, for those who wish to verbalize questions as well. So I think we're ready to hear what you want to know. I guess one thing I will add is I'm going to put a link. I don't think, Tim, that you put the link to our external site webpage, which really has a place where we kept track of the progress towards Z degrees, where we have down at the very bottom, there's some internal sites that we use to keep folks together. So I will put that link in right now because I think that's probably where that video, once it's complete, will be added as well. There's some other videos and some other student guides, etc. So I will add that right now.
I have a question.
Good thing.
I actually put it in chat, but you mentioned that you needed partnerships across campus to get your program off. What different departments and administratives were necessary for you to make all of this work?
Well, that's a good question. What kind of partnerships did we create? Well, we work directly with the campuses, and the partnership that we created was really with the community. We offer online learning circles that provided programs for faculty to be able to create the materials with their with local peers. So there were groups of 15 or so folks, Kim, that allowed faculty to work with other faculty from other institutions on the creation of materials. That's about the extent that we worked on the partnership directly with this. This was a program that we were given less than a year to complete. So we really were in a reactionary mode, creating the foundation for them on the fly. We happened to have some of that foundation, as Kim responded, in place. I was responding to the open door question. Minnesota State did not, or the state of Minnesota did not require us to have something like open door. It's just something that we happen to have in place and we're able to utilize to help foster the storage of those materials. So that was the extent of the partnership. We are leveraging some of those lessons learned, as we progress into the next year, creating those sustainability grants and also offering opportunities for additional campuses to jump into the Z degree arena. So we'll open up some dialogues and do lessons learned between campuses, but that's the extent we've done.
I'm also wondering if Amy was interested, and I think Stephen, you maybe can talk to this, the kinds of partnerships we were looking in our readiness assessment, what partnerships within a campus had already been formed to make that work as likely as possible to happen?
Yeah, certainly I can comment on that, Kim. You know, we've been working for a few years and trying to create as many OER committees on our campuses as we can, either as formally recognized committees or even as informal work groups of some sort. And what the guidance we've provided along the way has really focused on bringing together 5 or 6 different kinds of folks on a campus. You know, we believe pretty strongly, of course, you got to have faculty involved. That's an obvious one. But we have identified the importance and roles of students being involved in those committees. You want to have administration involved on those committees. You want to have librarians involved. You want to have bookstore representatives involved. And there are any number of other folks that you might want to have involved as well, just depending on how their roles touch the work. I mean, if you have an instructional designer or an instructional technologist on your campus or a campus trainer, I mean, those are going to be great folks to have involved as well. But what we see is the more diverse you have, more diversity of roles you have on those committees, sort of the more perspectives that come. And then what it ensures is that you're sort of covering all your bases and that you're not stepping on any toes anywhere. Because one thing we've learned as we've done more and more of this work is there are sticky situations that you can get yourself into on campuses, which we don't have time to kind of dive into today because this meeting is so short. But if you seek those people out and you bring them in on the front end of this work, it will pay you some dividends down the road. And we've heard that from our Z degree campuses as well.
Right. And Stephen, I do want to kind of encapsulate on that is we're also forming what we call a textbook affordability work group. And this work group really will be assessing the progress as we go through these open educational resource strategies, and Z degree being one of those. And that's a committee that's going to be consisting of administrators, staff, bookstores, just all the things that Stephen just mentioned. But this way, the voice comes from the community and not from a system office. So we're trying to engage our community of experts, taking a few folks from each of our campuses and serving on that committee so they can offer their expertise and guidance as we walk through some of these processes like Z degrees.
Question here from Dan. Do you have any education faculty involved in any of those committees on any of the campuses who might be training future teachers?
He should ask, right? We actually undertake exactly for that reason, to sort of look at where we might be able to develop materials to do that work, especially to continue to promote teachers of color in our pipeline. So we have teachers who have teachers have been involved. Just recently are starting to.
Yeah, you did cut off at the end there, Kim.
Oh, sorry. I guess I was just saying that we have, through our OER learning circles and other opportunities, we have had faculty who are in teacher education who have been working pretty in educational resources, but we haven't done that in a coordinated way that we're just starting to bring together to think about how we could do that more, especially around our transfer pathways, to think about how we could work for a greater impact across the system. So that's new to us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It is 3:25, so we are going to stop the recording now. The conversation can keep going on for about 15 minutes, and I will sign the host role so that everybody can keep talking if they would like. Thank you so much.
Thank you.